entire universe, that entire whirlpool of energy that makes up the entire universe, and you are that whirlpool also, then the really inescapable conclusion is that you are God. That but you see, not in the sense that you're the ruler of the universe. And that's where Westerners get into trouble, because in our culture, if you go around saying, my gosh, I just woke up and discovered that I am God, people think you're either crazy or you're blasphemous. They'll come up to you and say, well, if you're God, turn this shoebox into a rabbit. Show me a trick. And they think of God as this all omnipotent ruler who can do magic and make things happen. Or they just they think you're crazy, or you're committing some sort of blasphemy. And this is why Jesus Christ was crucified, because in his culture this was a blasphemous thing to say. If he was the Son of God, he was essentially saying he was the boss's son. And interestingly enough, the Christian religion finally kind of relented on this and said, okay, Jesus can be the Son of God, but nobody else can be. And so Alan Watts often talks about the gospel, which it really means the good news, and he says it never got out. Because the good news was not that Jesus was the Son of God, it was that everyone was the son or daughter, or whatever terminology you want to use, of God. So he talked a lot about this idea of God, and how in the back of our minds, if we have this idea of God upon a throne as the ruler, it makes it very difficult for people to feel that oneness with everything else that they talk about in the East. And he would often remark that, if the universe is the democracy that it is, that how could people believe that God was a dictator? And so he spent a lot of time trying to disabuse people of some of these ideas about God, and to get these images, these idols, in a way, out of their minds. The first commandment about not worshiping idols in the Ten Commandments, he would note that an idol made out of wood or stone or gold or something like that, it's pretty easy for a modern person to realize that is really not God. But the more subtle things that we think are God, the ideas we have in our mind that we think are God, those are a little more difficult for us to divorce ourselves from. So he was very often making this distinction between reality and the symbols that represent reality. I remember a story he told about a college professor, I believe it was, that he had, who would hold up a matchbook and say, "What is this?" And the students would say, "It's a matchbook," or they would try other things when he would say, "No, no, no." And he would say, "No, that's just a noise. Matchbook is just a noise." And finally he would throw it at a student and say, "That's what it is." And he was making the point that our ideas about reality, our symbols of reality, our concepts about reality, our map of reality is not reality. And that the quote-unquote enlightened person is the person who has made that distinction. He is not going around all the time looking at the world, adding a symbolic interpretation to it, adding a name to it, and then confusing that with the reality itself. And which brings to mind another little piece of this idea of what enlightenment is. The enlightened person is the person who has stopped playing this game of black and white. Many people think that the enlightened master is someone who has solved the problem of black and white, because he looks so happy, so peaceful, he's in such a state of equanimity, and he seems to have no problems. He seems to go through life so smoothly and easily. And the easy conclusion would be that here's somebody who has solved the problem of on and off, solve the problem of black and white. But the truth is that he has dropped the whole game. It's not that he's solved the problem, it's that he's realized that there was no problem to begin with. He's not putting black and white in opposition to